Now the Three Martini Lunch with Greg Columbus and Jim Garrity.
And welcome, everyone, to the Thursday edition of the Three Martini Lunch, along with Jim Garrity of National Review. I'm Greg Columbus of Radio America. Good, bad, and crazy martinis for conservatives today. And Jim, we almost had the topic set, and then all of a sudden we got breaking news, this version of it, from Pete Williams over at NBC.
Well, it's been one of the worst-kept secrets in Washington that Attorney General Eric Holder, who's one of the original cabinet members of President Obama, would probably leave office sometime this year. And now all the guessing is over because a Justice Department official tells us that the Attorney General will say later today that he intends to step down as soon as a successor is chosen.
Pete Williams over at NBC. So, Jim, I see this as good news for conservatives in two ways. First of all, Eric Holder, who's been, by most accounts, certainly on the right, by far the most partisan attorney general of all time. You look at Fast and Furious, his refusal to investigate the IRS scandal and a number of different things that have come before Congress, and the Congress has dutifully asked the Justice Department to investigate. And secondly, we assume the president's not going to nominate someone we like, and the fact that this is happening now means his optimism on the Democrats keeping the Senate probably isn't very good.
Yeah, we've set up a really fascinating question of how the confirmation hearings will come down, whether the vote will be held by the current Congress in a lame duck session or in the next Congress. I myself think that the nominee, William Ayers, will have a bit of a challenge. We all kind of knew Holder, you don't see a lot of attorney generals last for two terms. So it was kind of, on the one hand, it's kind of surprising that nobody had heard about this in a little while, but there had been periodic speculation that Holder was looking to move on and, do something else in the nation of cowards that he had denounced early on, probably in the private sector, on Wall Street, since he never put any of those guys in jail. For Obama, this is a sort of fight that might get Democrats kind of charged up. If you have somebody who they really rally to, and if he can get Republicans to conclude that the nominee is a terrible choice. Now, here's the real challenge for Obama, Greg. Holder really set the bar low. I mean, you really got to look hard to find somebody who is going to be, who could say, having just survived 6 years of Eric Holder as Attorney General, I began by saying William Ayers. He'd really have to go with he or Bernadette Dorn or somebody who's really absolutely unacceptable to get the Republicans to really be that upset about it. There will be certainly a bunch of conservatives who will try to argue that the Republicans should vote down the nominee. We'll see who the president nominates. My guess is the nominee will probably get confirmed, whether it's this Congress or the next. But I guess I should wait and see what the president's nominee is. But for people who have really grated their teeth going back to Fast and Furious and, the pursuit of AP reporters and James Rosen, which I guess Eric Holder will now pursue as a vigilante. This has not been a noble reign as an attorney general, and I think partisan is the best word for it. He never investigated the IRS stuff. He never investigated one scandal after another, the contempt citation, the entire Fast and Furious explanation never made sense because it meant that reports got to the office of the Attorney General, but that he personally had never read it, never saw those reports. Just a generally disgraceful era. And I suppose it's always a slim possibility that the next guy will be better. Isn't that wonderful? And that's our good martini, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, Eric Holder's gone. We hold out very little hope for a quality replacement, but as you said, the bar's been set pretty low. So perhaps, he can come up with someone. If he really wanted to mess with their heads, Hillary Clinton's a lawyer.
I'm sure Biden is pushing for that right now.
Probably so. All right, on to the bad martini now, and this definitely is bad regardless of your political stripe. This is from the Los Angeles Times. 1 in 5 U.S. workers was laid off in the past 5 years, and about 22% of those who lost their jobs still haven't found another one, according to a new survey that showed the extent Americans have struggled in the sluggish labor market since the Great Recession ended. Those who did find work had a difficult time with their job search. Nearly 40% said it took more than 7 months to find employment, and about 1 in 5 laid-off workers said all they could find was a temporary position. Almost half of the estimated 30 million layoff victims who found new jobs said they paid less than their old ones. So, Jim, the president was just talking about how it's sunshine and roses in his 9/11 speech, or the day before, I guess. He talked about how we've come out of the Great Recession. The numbers don't seem to back that up much.
I thought it was kind of a useful indicator. I suppose there are some economists who will argue whether it matches the official Bureau of Labor Statistics data. But the good news is, some people who lost their jobs during the Great Recession are getting new jobs. Generally, they're not paying as well. Generally, it's kind of more not the situation they want to be in. I think a good way of just kind of measuring is just how many people have had their career paths interrupted and kind of their dreams and all their efforts of what they're trying to build towards in their career. Very tough to dispute that this has been, economic hard times. To put in that the idea that 1 out of every 5 Americans has lost their job and, maybe hopefully we found new jobs, but just how much instability there is in our economy and just how much anxiety there is and how much people are seeing people around them lose their work and lose their jobs and have to find new ones, and maybe they're happy with the new ones, but in a lot of cases they're not. And there you go. That's a good indicator of just how, despite the happy talk we hear from Washington these days, particularly the administration, this is a really lousy economy for a lot of people, and a lot of people are just kind of struggling along and hoping for better times to come. But I think, a series of, lousy decisions and other factors have kind of contributed a really rough job market for millions upon millions upon millions of Americans.
Certainly the case, and we should point out that the study was done by the John J. Heldrich Center for Workforce Development at Rutgers University. Jim, to the crazy martini now, and this is one we've actually touched on before, but now, unfortunately, it seems like this is getting a lot more serious traction. This is by Byron York over at The Examiner. Is Mitt Romney really thinking about running again for president in 2016? Many Republicans have simply assumed not. Romney has seemed to discourage such talk in media appearances, and there has been a general belief that after losing as the party's nominee, the 67-year-old Romney would return to private life for good. That belief is wrong. Romney is talking with advisors, consulting with his family, keeping a close eye on the emerging 16 Republican field, and carefully weighing the pluses and minuses of another run. That doesn't mean he will decide to do it, but it does mean that Mitt 2016 is a real possibility. Nearly all of his 2012 circle of advisors, finance people, and close aides remain intact, and they're extremely loyal. A significant number of Romney's top financial supporters from 2012 have decided not to commit to any other candidate until they hear a definitive word from Romney. Jim, we like Mitt Romney, but it's time for someone new.
Yeah, that's really the best way of putting it, which is that, look, still to this day, amongst Republicans who say, well, we lost because Romney is a lousy candidate, I very much disagree with that. I very much disagree with this notion that he is some helpless or hopeless squish. I think he would have been actually could have potential to be a really good president. But indisputably, he gave it his best shot in 2012 in circumstances a lot of people thought were winnable for a Republican, and he came up short. And in fact, I think the results are really one of the biggest most intense disappointments for Republicans in a long time. Ann Romney has indicated in the past she's not eager to put her family through this all over again. Mitt, we love you, but I think it's time you just enjoy a happy retirement. There are a lot of reasons for the Republicans to pursue a new direction, but one is that if Hillary Clinton is the nominee, as many folks expect, that the possibility for a great generational contrast is there for the Republicans. If you nominate a Bobby Jindal or a Marco Rubio or even even Rick Perry is considerably younger than Hillary. And I just think it's time for Republicans to demonstrate that they're headed in a new direction, new leadership, new blood, new ideas. There's going to be a lot of things that are going to seem stale about Democratic governance in 2016, and I just think it's a good idea for Republicans to showcase their new side as opposed to a retread. And yet it seems like a lot of people who were around the Romney machine don't want to give up that dream. And I just kind of, I don't want to see the 2016 campaign be in reruns.
Yeah, exactly right. The last time the Republicans nominated someone for the second time, it was Nixon in 68. He obviously won. The last time they did it consecutively, Thomas Dewey, 44 and 48. And we all know how that turned out, or at least those who pay attention to history know. On that fun note, let's get back to the happy news. Eric Holder's leaving.
Stay tuned, everybody. We'll see who the replacement is, and then we'll get you good and depressed again.
Exactly. Jim, you're out tomorrow. We'll talk to you Monday.
See you Monday, Greg.
Jim Garrity of National Review. I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. Thanks for being with us today. Andrew Johnson of National Review will be in for Jim tomorrow. Join us then for the next 3 Martini Lunch.